Today we need to talk about the absolute collapse of a terrifying illusion. If you turn on the television right now, the mainstream media and the foreign policy, quote, experts are selling you a very specific, very dangerous narrative. They are telling you that the Islamic Republic of Iran is a unified, impenetrable fortress. They are telling you that the regime is resilient, that their leadership is locked in lockstep, and that they are perfectly prepared to wait out the United States in a long, drawn-out geopolitical chess match. But they are lying to you, because right now, behind the closed doors of Tehran, the reality is something entirely different. The regime is not unified. The regime is not resilient. The regime is currently engaged in a massive, bloody internal civil war, and the political leadership is literally cannibalizing itself. We are witnessing a multi-front collapse of the Iranian state, and there is one specific detail, one classified military request buried in the Pentagon's dispatch that exposes exactly how close we are to the absolute endgame. When you understand what the United States military is currently moving into position, and when you see who the Iranian president just sold out to save his own skin, everything happening in the Middle East right now will make perfect, terrifying sense. By the end of this video, you are going to understand the true scale of the power vacuum in Tehran. You are going to see the devastating mathematical reality of Operation Economic Fury, and you are going to learn about a highly classified $15 million American weapon system that is about to rewrite the rules of modern warfare. This is the story of how an empire falls from the inside out. So hit that subscribe button, turn off the distractions, and pay very close attention, because the ripple effects of what is happening in Iran today are coming straight for the global economy. Let's get into it. Let us start by ripping the mask off the Iranian leadership. For 4 decades, the Islamic Republic has projected an image of absolute divine unity. The supreme leader gives an order, the president executes it, and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, enforces it. It was a holy trinity of terror, but that trinity has completely shattered. Right now, the political leadership in Tehran is fracturing at an unprecedented speed. We are seeing reports leaking out of continuous weekly coup attempts. Paranoia has completely infected the highest levels of the state. Following the recent highly suspicious assassination of Ali Rozani, a ruthless power struggle has erupted that has torn the government in half. And here is the double cross that nobody saw coming. The Iranian president and the parliament speaker have joined forces and are actively attempting to purge their own foreign minister. Why? Because the foreign minister has been accused of operating as a rogue asset for the IRGC hardliners during incredibly high-stakes negotiations in Pakistan. Think about the gravity of that. The president of Iran is literally trying to decapitate his own diplomatic wing because he believes the military elite is sabotaging him to seize total control of the state. The president knows the country is mathematically bankrupt. He knows the regime is completely out of time. He is desperately trying to find an off-ramp, a way to survive the coming months. But the IRGC zealots don't want an off-ramp. They want escalation. So the president is making his move. He is double-crossing the very military apparatus that keeps him in power. When the president and the parliament are actively purging the diplomatic corps to weaken the military, the illusion of a unified government is completely dead. There is no government in Iran anymore. There are only desperate men fighting over the steering wheel of a car that is actively driving off a cliff. And why are they driving off a cliff? Because of a quiet, invisible, and completely suffocating American strategy known as Operation Economic Fury. You see, the United States didn't need to send 1 million troops to the desert to destroy the Iranian regime. They just needed to turn off the money. And the strategy implemented by the U.S. Treasury is working with a terrifying, devastating efficiency. We are talking about total economic strangulation. Right now, seaborne commerce through the Strait of Hormuz, the absolute lifeblood of the Iranian economy, has plummeted by an astonishing 90%. 90% of their shipping has simply vanished. The U.S. naval blockade and secondary sanctions have created an invisible wall of steel around the country. Let me put a number on that for you because the macroeconomics only makes sense when you see the daily damage. Every single day that the sun rises, the Iranian regime is bleeding roughly $450 million in lost revenue. $450 million every single day. In a week, that is over $3 billion evaporated. But who actually feels that pain? It isn't the IRGC generals hiding in their bunkers. It is the everyday working-class citizen. Right now, the Iranian currency has been crushed into absolute dust. Inflation has officially surged past 50%, though independent economists will tell you the real number is astronomically higher. Imagine waking up tomorrow and the money in your bank account is worth half of what it was yesterday. Imagine going to the grocery store and basic staples like bread and rice are completely out of reach. The regime has been forced to implement extreme food rationing just to keep the population alive. The leaders in Tehran are sitting on a domestic time bomb. They are terrified. They are losing sleep, not because of American bombs, but because they know that when a population is mathematically incapable of feeding its children, the social contract breaks. They are terrified of a massive, uncontrollable resurgence in civil uprisings. They know that if the people take to the streets again, there is no amount of IRGC thugs that will be able to stop the tidal wave of millions of starving citizens. This absolute economic panic is exactly what is driving Tehran's desperate diplomatic maneuvers. They are scrambling. They are begging for a lifeline. Over the past few days, Tehran has submitted a second rapid-fire peace plan through mediators in Pakistan. They are using back channels to frantically signal Washington. And what are they asking for? They are desperately trying to decouple their nuclear program from the lifting of the U.S. naval blockade. They are basically telling the United States, we will make a few concessions here and there. Just please, please let our ships back into the ocean before our country completely implodes, but leave our nuclear sites alone. The United States looked at that proposal, crumpled it up, and threw it right back in their faces. The U.S. has decisively and aggressively rejected this desperate plea. Washington is operating from a position of absolute, undeniable leverage, and they are not interested in the traditional diplomatic theater. The demand from the United States is brutal and non-negotiable. Absolute, verifiable commitments to completely freeze the movement of enriched uranium and the total halt of all nuclear site reconstruction. And the Iranians cannot lie their way out of this one because they are being watched. They are being watched by an unblinking network of U.S. satellite surveillance that tracks every single truck moving across the desert. They are being watched by a pervasive network of Israeli ground intelligence that has infiltrated the deepest, darkest corners of the Iranian nuclear apparatus. The regime is trapped. They cannot negotiate, they cannot sell oil, and they cannot cheat. But what happens if the Iranian hardliners decide to refuse these terms? What happens if the IRGC completely overthrows the president, takes control of the state, and decides to make a suicidal run toward a nuclear weapon? That brings us to the most terrifying part of this entire geopolitical chess match, because as these negotiations stall, the Pentagon is actively preparing for a kinetic reboot, and they are not bringing traditional weapons to this fight. Right now, U.S. Central Command has put in a direct request for the deployment of one of the most highly classified, devastating weapons in the American arsenal, the Dark Eagle hypersonic missile. Let me explain exactly what the Dark Eagle is, because the media severely underplays the capability of hypersonic weaponry. We are not talking about a standard cruise missile. We are talking about a weapon that costs $15 million per unit. The Dark Eagle boasts an operational range of over 1,700 miles, but it is the speed and maneuverability that changes the entire nature of warfare. This missile travels at speeds exceeding Mach 5. It does not follow a predictable parabolic arch like a traditional ballistic missile. It glides through the upper atmosphere, maneuvering unpredictably, making it completely impossible for any advanced air defense system on the planet to track it, target it, or intercept it. Why is the Pentagon requesting this specific weapon right now? Because Iranian military commanders, in a desperate attempt to protect their assets, have recently relocated their mobile missile launchers deep into the interior of the country, moving them out of the standard range of traditional precision strike munitions from the Persian Gulf. They thought they were safe. They thought they could hide in the mountains. The Dark Eagle was specifically designed for this exact scenario. It was designed to bypass the most advanced air defenses in the world, penetrate deep into hostile territory, and completely annihilate heavily fortified, relocated launchers before the enemy even realizes a launch has occurred. If the United States fires a Dark Eagle at an IRGC bunker in the mountains of Iran, the generals inside that bunker will be vaporized before the alarm sirens even have a chance to sound. It is a weapon of absolute, instantaneous destruction. This is the psychological terror the United States is currently holding over the head of the Iranian regime. You either submit, completely abandon your nuclear ambitions, and accept the absolute humiliation of total capitulation, or $15 million hypersonic missiles that you cannot see and cannot stop will systematically erase your military infrastructure from the face of the earth. But there is a final critical piece to this story, and it is the human element, because it is very easy to look at geopolitics as a game of chess played by billionaires and generals. But we must never forget the sheer brutality of the regime that the United States is currently trying to dismantle. This is a government that has survived for 40 years on a diet of absolute, unapologetic terror. When the economic protest erupted in the past, this regime did not offer economic relief. They massacred 42,000 of their own citizens in the streets, 42,000 human beings slaughtered for demanding bread. They have systematically executed high-profile dissidents just to send a message of fear. They hung a national champion wrestler from a noose in a public square simply because he dared to protest against the government. They use murder as a tool of statecraft. But the events of the last few weeks have proven something absolutely incredible. They have proven that extreme, maximum pressure actually works. Just recently, the Iranian regime was preparing to execute 8 female prisoners, 8 women who were locked in the dungeons of the Islamic Republic, waiting for the hangman. But the United States administration stepped in. President Trump noted his direct, aggressive intervention, using the full weight of the American economic and military threat to demand that the executions be halted. And what did the ruthless, bloodthirsty regime do? Did they stand their ground? Did they defy the United States? No, they buckled. They halted the executions. The women were saved. That single moment proves everything you need to know about the current dynamic in the Middle East. It proves that the Iranian regime is not a fearless, holy empire. They are terrified thugs holding on to power by a thread. When pressed by maximum American pressure, when faced with the absolute certainty of economic annihilation and hypersonic vaporization, the regime will bend. We have reached the ultimate geopolitical inflection point. The Iranian regime is standing at a crossroads, and both paths lead to the end of the Islamic Republic as we know it. On one path, they completely capitulate. They surrender their nuclear ambitions, they submit to unblinking Western surveillance, and they allow the United States to dictate the terms of their survival, just to stop the hyperinflationary death spiral. If they take this path, the IRGC loses its power, the hardliners are humiliated, and the regime slowly crumbles from the inside out. On the other path, the hardliners seize control, they reject the Pakistani peace channels, and they dare the United States to act. And if they take that path, the Dark Eagles will fly, the relocated launchers will burn, and the regime will be removed by force. Capitulation or vaporization, those are the only two options left on the table. The president of Iran knows this, which is why he is currently double-crossing his own military to find a way out. The illusion is dead. The panic is real. But I want to hear from you, because these conversations are exactly how we stay ahead of the curve. Do you think the Iranian president's double-cross will succeed, or will the IRGC hardliners launch a total coup? Will the Pentagon actually deploy the Dark Eagle hypersonic missiles in combat? Let me know exactly what you think down in the comments below. And remember, the regime in Tehran is currently spending millions of dollars deploying bot networks and digital sleeper cells across Western platforms to manipulate algorithms and spread demoralization. They want you to think they are strong. They want you to think America is weak. Your engagement on this video is a direct countermeasure to that psychological warfare. When you smash that like button, when you share this video, and when you subscribe, you are actively pushing the truth through the algorithm. You are ensuring that the real story of this collapsing, cannibalistic regime reaches the masses. So hit that notification bell, stay informed, stay engaged, and never stop asking questions. I'll see you in the next one.